So we'll start with some bad news. The person that is searching around on YouTube right now for a way to make $1 million this month, I don't have the answer for you. But for the person that is prepared to delay that a little bit, I can tell you the story about how I made $1 million with my very first online course in about 15 months or so. All right. That's what we're going to talk about in this one. I'm going to take you through the entire journey. I'm going to share the big lessons. I'm going to tell you what I did in each phase, all the different steps, and tell you about the big mistakes that I made. And then we're going to round it out with a bit of advice on kind of where to take things from here. If you are interested in launching your first course, or maybe you've tried it and it hasn't quite worked, this might illuminate some things for you. So let's dive in. All right, the 30,000 foot overview. This is how this really all unfolded to begin with. Okay, wind back the clock to 2017. I'm working in corporate. I'm in New York, and I'm coming back to Oz in 2018. I didn't want to come back and do the same stuff. I used to work in finance. I wanted a new path, and I dabbled in the online game back in like 2011 very briefly. I bought a website that made a bit of money, which was cool, and that was the path that I kind of jumped back into, and it was this affiliate bootcamp from the folks over at ClickFunnels that got me back in the game. I found affiliate marketing. It made sense to me. If you don't know what it is, that's not the topic for today, but essentially you get paid to promote other people's stuff, and everything changed from there. So that's where we pick up our story, okay, just to set the scene, all right? Now, here's what happened from 2017 to 2019, right? I was literally in the weeds every single day, sometimes while working my day job, and then I was ultimately able to quit my job, but mastering my craft as an affiliate or as a super affiliate ultimately, because I was able to push up into that tiny, like 1% type results. And what I did in this time is I sold multi six figures. I won a bunch of awards that you can see on the screen in front of you. I was able to speak on stages, and I became known as a leader in that industry for the stuff that I had done. Okay. And when you spend an extended period of time mastering your craft and becoming very, very fucking good at one thing, demand will naturally accumulate. People will want to know, what's the secret? How do you do it? How have you done this? When, as with anything that a lot of people want to achieve, a lot of people are never going to achieve it, right? And so there's always going to be this demand for people who go, well, how did you do it, right? I documented the journey along the way, which was really powerful because people saw me go from quitting, from working in corporate to ultimately quitting my job, going from this corporate lifestyle to the laptop lifestyle with the affiliate marketing stuff that I was doing as the vehicle. It literally changed my life. It's a business model that gets a lot of hate, but most people just don't really understand it, as with a lot of things that people throw hate at. Okay, so I spent 3 years really mastering my craft, and this is where a big issue arises, and we're going to circle back to this. Okay, after those 3 years of really being in the weeds day in and day out, winning all those awards, making all that money, traveling, becoming really known, the demand and the outreach that I was receiving really reached a point where I was like, fuck, I can't ignore this anymore. Like I've got to do something about this. I was also going through a bit of a transition with the business, and I wanted something new. I wanted to be around people more. Being an affiliate can be a bit isolating because you're really just, playing with funnels and kind of doing stuff behind the scenes a lot of the time. And so I said, all right, let's move. And I moved quickly. Okay. So this is where we begin, right? I decided to launch what was called the Super Affiliate Accelerator. Okay. And literally within days of deciding to do it, getting a couple of things lined up, I brought a couple of guys on board to help me out who had different specializations that I knew would be complementary and are really, really good guys that I wanted to work with. We hit go, right? Literally within days. I'd loaded the slingshot those previous 3 years, mastering my craft. It was time to move. I announced a beta program, right, for $1,000. Okay, so I'm giving you all the details along the way. And I capped it at 40 people. Okay, now in hindsight, 40 might have been a few too many. We filled it, sold it out, but 40 might have been slightly too many. If I was to do it again in perfect hindsight, I'd maybe lower that number just a little bit. Maybe like 20 to 30 would be a better number. Okay, you've got to have enough people that you're going to get engagement and interaction, because you've got to realize, especially at $1,000 price point, not everybody's going to do it. That's just the reality of this stuff. But you don't want too many. We didn't ultimately have too many, but yeah, I think if you wanted the perfect number, probably 20 to 30 would be slightly more ideal. Okay, literally all I had was an order form, right? And I opened a brand new Facebook group and had a blank content portal, but there was no content in the content portal to start. There was a welcome post in the Facebook group. And as I sold the 40 people, I just accumulated them waiting to join the group. We picked a start date. And then when we arrived at that start date, I let them all in and we were off, right? Now to fill those 40 spots, I had a small audience on my Facebook profile. I had a small Facebook group and I had a bit of an email list, and it was literally a matter of just doing whatever was necessary to fill those spots. So it was creating written posts, creating videos, doing calls, selling stuff in the DMs, a combination of both. It was really just a hustle phase. I think it was over about 3 weeks. Maybe it stretched out to 4 weeks. It was a little while ago now, so the particulars, elude me, but it wasn't long. Call it a month max, and we put 40 people into this, which was really, really cool. Okay. And so here's how I structured up the beta program. It was to run for 8 weeks. There would be weekly content released. So I was building the course in real time with people. And I'll talk about the structure of that in a second, because how we did it was really good and it worked really well. There was a weekly Q&A call, right? And as I released the content, I would usually go live as well and kind of talk people through what was in there and how it tied into everything else and why it was relevant. So it really ended up being releasing a module, 2 weekly calls, one where I was kind of leading it and talking through the content, and the second one was a raw Q&A. So usually I'd release the content at the start of the week, host the Q&A towards the end of the week so that people had time to go through it, start implementing, and then the questions came off the back of that. And then we had the community there that we put everybody into, the Facebook group. And that was for 24/7 support. We had a designated question thread that kept everything really, really organized. And me and the 2 other gents that I work with, we just checked that every day and made sure everybody's questions got answered. Okay. The focus during this phase, above all else, was client results. So it was obviously getting the program built out, but in doing it at the same time, the number one priority was we've got to start getting client results, testimonials, screenshots, having people, have these light bulb moments so that they can ultimately break through and really, really move forward with this. And this was our focus for 8 weeks. It may have dragged out a couple of extra weeks. Initially, the plan was 8 weeks. I think we might have extended it a couple of weeks once we were live, but it was around that like 8 to 10 week mark for the beta program, for the build out. And we didn't put anybody else new in. We had demand, but we held it. After that initial beta period, results are starting to come in. We entered a pre-launch / early access phase. Okay. So you can see we moved quickly, but we also phased this out to make sure, that this was something that could really last, and it was something that was going to be around for a long, long time. And it ultimately ran for nearly 4 years, which in internet marketing land is a really, really long time. Okay, so as the results are starting to come in, the content's all been created over that beta period. Now we enter this pre-launch / early access phase. Increase the price from $1,000 to $1,500 and reopened enrollments. Okay, the delivery at this point is the course that's been built out through that beta phase. It's a Facebook group and it's a weekly live call with myself and the 2 other gents. Sometimes one of us couldn't make it, so it would be 2 of us, but there was usually always at least 2 people on the call, and in most cases there was 3. We really started to ramp up marketing now because we wanted to bring in that next wave of people, and we leveraged the testimonials and the results from the beta period to bring in that next wave of people. We were going hard on Facebook organic, going hard on YouTube, email, and started winding up the affiliate network, which came from our customers, and people were happy to recommend it for a generous commission because they were loving the community, they were loving the training, they were loving the results, and it was very different from anything that they'd seen before. I brought this approach to the affiliate space, which nobody had done before, which was reality. If you want to put it simply. Most of the affiliate marketing people out there talk about easy, quick, fast money. My message was a lot more brutal. My message was a lot more direct, which was, this is fucking hard. This is going to take work, right? It will test you and it will test you and it will test you, but it is worth it. And people loved that. They found it so refreshing. And it really took off. Also, how I built the course, which I was going to touch on back here, so I'll bring that up. 2 elements to the actual creation of the course that people really loved. The first was I split the course into 2 parts. I first created a quick start guide. So if you think about your overall transformation that you're trying to create for people, you obviously can go into a lot of detail as to how to achieve that transformation. And usually when you're building a course, you want to have like 3 to 5 core pillars. In this case, we had 4. We had 4 pillars that we took people through. We had mindset, offer creation, conversion, aka getting sales, and building an audience, right? I could have just built a deep dive training on those 4 pillars, but what I did before that was I built a fast start guide that gave them the things straight away so that they could actually start moving. Then as they went through the deep dive training, they were implementing at the same time, because where most people lose momentum when it comes to going through courses is they sit there and they watch it all and they don't implement. And then they ultimately have to go back to the start and go through it all, and they just lose too much momentum. Where I learned this from was because of the very first course that I bought in terms of affiliate marketing was for $100. And as I went through it, one of the things that I did very right was I'd watch a video and implement. I'd watch a video and implement. I'd watch a video and implement. And that worked so well for me to get me in momentum quickly that I wanted my people to be able to do the same. So as you're building out your content, make sure that it's stuff that they can implement in real time. Okay. Once they had the quick start guide, then I went into the deep dive training of those 4 core pillars so that they could really understand it in depth, right? And they could do that at their own speed. Okay. So that was the structure of the course. We had the Facebook group and we had the weekly live. As I said, we were aggressive in the organic marketing, and we were starting to wind up the affiliates. And this is how we started consistently enrolling people. We were leveraging 2 different funnels. One was a case study funnel, which was literally just me, sharing what we help people with, client results, and then they could book a call with either myself or another gent who helped me with the calls. And then eventually we also added a more traditional sales page with a VSL and an order form, so people could buy it directly if they wanted to, or they did have the option to jump on a call with us if they had questions. And affiliates could have access to those. The commissions that they earned kind of varied depending on if we closed the sale for them or if they closed the sale directly through the sales page. In this phase, we were kind of validating marketing messaging. We were making sure the funnels were working. We were building out more trainings to kind of fill in any gaps from the initial build out in the beta program, because when you start to build out your course, you might have this vision of what it should look like. And then questions will start to pop up and you'll go, oh, I should add this in, I should add that in. And it became this beast where you plug all these holes and it's ultimately something people can go through, and it's just unbelievable. And it's just an amazing, amazing product. Still is to this day, and has been responsible for so many millions of dollars being made. It's not even funny, right? So we were tidying up the community, tidying up the content portal, making more trainings to really enhance that client experience, client results. This period was really about starting to get cash flow going again, testing marketing messages, and solidifying in the delivery. Okay, and so we did this for about 2 months. This was the kind of pre-launch early access phase. And then we went boom. We went evergreen, we went live, and it was game on. Okay, so once all these things were dialed in, running smoothly, the funnels were working, delivery was sweet, we were off. All right, and this is where it started to go semi-viral. And that was due to the reason I told you before about this kind of very new and real and raw approach to this industry that nobody else had brought before. Amazing client results that were coming out, and we'd created a really unique opportunity in that we combined a couple of things that nobody had combined before. It was a new methodology that addressed a lot of the frustrations of people in the space at the time, and that's a real key to making a sexy offer. And I'm able to help my clients do that, who I consult with directly inside my inner circle, right? And so we went hard, and we were so consistent every day. Facebook, I was doing daily YouTube videos for a period, pumping emails. The affiliates were pushing it, and we were going hard on the $1,500 price point until September 2020. Right? At some point in there, we moved away from the call funnel, and we basically just sold it directly. I can't remember exactly when that happened. And then ultimately in September, we increased the price from $1,500 to $2K, and it went bang. This was $160,000 a month on a $1,500 offer. Like that is a big result. Okay. And so we pushed it up to 2K, and then we ultimately pushed through to January 2021, which was approximately 15-ish months after we started. We crossed the $1 million mark, and we're able to win the ClickFunnels 2 Comma Club Award, which was one of our big goals when we initially set out. Okay, so that was really the timeline. There was the beta, there was the early access, and then there was the evergreen live and the big push after mastering my craft at it for 3 years, which really, really, really loaded things up to make it a success. Okay, so lessons and takeaways, and I want to talk you through some mistakes and then kind of where to from here. All right, as I mentioned, load the slingshot. The better you become at your thing, the more ammo you're going to build for your course, because you're going to have more credibility and there's going to be more demand accumulated, right? If you've got a little bit of experience and a little bit of results and a little bit of credibility, your course will achieve a little result initially. If you've got a lot, it's more likely to pop, right? It's pretty simple. One offer can change your life. You don't need a ton of different offers. Eventually, we did add in a low ticket front end for $100, but yeah, it definitely wasn't necessary. And this is something I still preach with my clients today. I help them build one main signature offer inside their information coaching course consulting type business. We do some really cool shit, how they can monetize it in a lot of different ways, but it allows you to be hyper focused on one thing, and you can market it hard daily, publicly, privately in the DMs, and it keeps you really, really focused on one main North Star, which is critical. Okay. We delayed the price increase, and what this did is it created this big pool of people on the fence who ultimately tipped over. Everyone's really keen to increase their prices really quickly, and it doesn't give time for pressure to build up in the market. What happens when you've got a product out there that's getting great results and is going kind of ish viral, people see it and they're like, oh, I really want to join. I don't know if I want to spend the money. I've bought this other course, and they wait and they wait and they wait and they wait, and you build up pressure. And through your marketing and through the results, you create this really compelling case as to why this is the thing they should be investing in. And then ultimately you run a big, what I call squeeze campaign over like a month, 6 weeks. And if there's a big pool of people who've been on the fence, you'll see a ton of them drop in. I've done this with a lot of my clients, and it works really well if you've got a great program and you push out on that price increase just a bit. Okay. Another big lesson, your happy customers are going to be your best marketing and sales assets. If you get them great results and you incentivize them to recommend your program and your products, you can print cash, right? People aren't going to recommend it if they don't love it. They might recommend it if they're not incentivized, but if they are incentivized, they're going to be way more likely to recommend it. You bring those two things together and it creates an explosion, okay? In terms of marketing it yourself, I would recommend that you pair, and I still recommend this with all my clients, and this is what I do in my own business day in and day out, pair real-time active content, which is like a Facebook, Instagram type platform, LinkedIn if you're in that market, with a long-form YouTube-style podcast to really build relationships. And this is the perfect combination for pre-selling. The real-time active shows the day-to-day, and then the longer-form content people can go and watch in their own time, and they can spend a long period of time with you. And it's that investment of time, that consumption, that really, really builds the relationship. Okay. And then one final lesson, which I had this huge light bulb while I was in the middle of everything with this course, was the key to this whole game is leveraging success to create more success, right? So if we go right back to here, I was building from the ground up when I first started in 2017. Right? And I started to get some results, and then that helped me roll one thing into another. Every time you get a result, you've got more experience, you've got more credibility, you've got more resources behind you in terms of connections, financial resources, and it makes that next win easier to achieve, right? Or at least you're more experienced, so you can move towards it more quickly. This then provided the footing for me to launch this, which went nuts, right? This ultimately became the catalyst for what I do now, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But understand that you create a win, and then that leads to a bigger win, to a bigger win, to a bigger win. And then ultimately you're in control because you're building this credibility and you're building this momentum. Okay. And go dissect people online. That's what they've done. Result into result, into result, into result. It's all about building momentum. That initial period is the hardest, but once you get rolling, you can roll one thing into another. Okay. Some mistakes. In hindsight, looking back, we should have added a back end at some point. We should have added like a 5 to 10K back end, and we would have been able to ascend up that top 10, 20% of clients, which would have made a huge difference to not only top line revenue, but to to profit. We could have blown this thing up to 8 figures, I'm pretty sure, if we'd gone hard with paid ads. We just didn't really go down the path of it. Honestly, I was busy enough with what I had in front of me. And this was my first big course that I'd ever run. So I was really just figuring it all out on the fly. We potentially could have sold it as a business in its own right, if it had been structured differently, and maybe if it relied less on my kind of personal branding. But that's a like hindsight is 2020 type thing. I didn't even think about that going into it. But looking back, maybe that was an error, because it did build up a lot of brand equity. And when we ultimately closed it, you lose that brand equity that could have been potentially sold, maybe. When I first started, I did not understand boundaries. So we quickly put like 100, then 200, then 300 people into this Facebook group. And I just expected everybody to follow the rules and to comply. My messenger inbox on Facebook disagreed. I was getting hammered, and I had to quickly scramble to fix this, and had to learn lessons from Dan Kennedy. Studying him taught me a lot, and had to repeat this to people over and over and over and over again. We had the rules being posted in the group like every week, right? And I had to figure out how to actually enforce these boundaries. And then the last one is I let the haters get to me at times, not always, but at times. This was things really blew up. And when you start to get a lot of public attention, you start to make a lot of money, the haters always come out. They come out on videos like this when you talk about it. And at the time, I hadn't really dealt with a ton of it, and I didn't realize that it was just them being jealous of the success. They got nothing else to do, so they decide to sling hate. I mean, what type of person spends their time doing that, right? And I did let it get to me. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be like, it didn't bother me at all. It did. It really got to me at times. But I had to work through that. It was a new challenge, and it impacts me significantly less now than it used to. So that's just a few mistakes in hindsight of things that you might want to think about as you're implementing, things to expect, moves that you might want to make, things that you might want to consider and think about. Okay. So bottom line, learning to bundle up information and sell it with leverage, right? It changed my life forever, as you can see from this story and plenty of other stories that I can tell you. This here with this course ultimately became the catalyst for what my business is now, because I had this whirlwind experience over like 15 months where I was like, holy shit, if you can do this with a guy who learned affiliate marketing a couple of years ago and then turned it into $1 million product that started with an empty Facebook group and an empty content portal on ClickFunnels, we can do this with anything. And that's where my obsession and interest with helping people be able to bundle up what they know really came from. And that's what my inner circle is all about now, right? Anyone can do this, but not everyone will. It isn't easy, and it will test you a lot. If you start selling to hundreds of people, there's going to be challenges, but it is worth it. It's worth it financially. It's worth it in terms of the relationships that you'll build with people you work with clients, and what it can do for your business long-term, the connections that you create. Don't listen to the haters who throw shit at courses and coaching. There's this big wave of people who hate on it. Most of them wouldn't make $1 if they tried. It's not as easy as people make it out to be. It's it's a real business, and it's like I'm just taking my experience, my knowledge from stuff that I've done. And if you want to buy it. And if you don't. It's that simple. And as with any business, it's a series of problems that you have to solve. That's all business is. It's solving one problem and solving another problem, then solving another problem, then solving another problem. There's always issues. I've worked with, hundreds of people who are trying to make their first dollar. And back in my corporate career, I worked with multi-billion-dollar businesses. And that's all it is. It's solving one problem after another. You zoom in, try solve it, zoom out, go again, go again, go again, go again. All right. So if this is something that you want to do, don't fucking listen to them. Know that it's going to be a challenge. Know that there'll probably be some haters along the way if you decide to sell a course, because it's like the in vogue thing to do. Surround yourself with the right people. Market it hard if it's something that you're really proud of, and go fucking do it, because it can literally change your life like it did for me. If you're interested in working together, check out the links in the description. You can get some info about my inner circle. But either way, I hope you took something out of that. Hopefully that inspires someone to go create a badass course business, coaching business, whatever. And I will talk to you all in the next one. Cheers.